everyone. Welcome back to Self-Advocacy Matters. I am your host, and today we are honoring the unstoppable Judith Heumann, often called the mother of disability rights movement. Her story isn't just about accessibility, it's about dignity, equality, and power. And don't worry, we're going to sprinkle in some humor because if Judy taught us anything, it's that fighting injustice doesn't mean losing your sense of humor or your ability to throw a little shade. Judy Heumann was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1947 to German Jewish immigrant parents who had escaped Nazi Germany. At age 2, she contracted polio, a virus that left her unable to walk. From then on, Judy used a wheelchair, a fact that would define not her abilities, but how the world treated her. By age 5, she faced her first barrier. Her public school refused to admit her, claiming she was a fire hazard. Not because she set things ablaze of their intellect, though fair, but because of her wheelchair. Basically, she was too flammable for kindergarten. Her mother, Elise, wasn't buying it. She marched right back in with a look that said, "My daughter's getting an education, whether you like it or not." And eventually, the school relented. This wasn't just a win for Judy, it was a preview. If life gave her an obstacle, she rolled over it, called a press conference, and made sure it never happened to anyone else again. As Judy put it in Being Human, disability only becomes a tragedy when society fails to provide the things we need to lead our lives. Translation, the real problem isn't the wheelchair, it's your bad attitude. Growing up, Judy often felt isolated. Schools were reluctant. Buildings had more stairs than a bad dream, and the world didn't exactly roll out the red carpet for disabled kids. But all that changed when she went to Camp Janine, a scrappy, magical summer camp in the Catskills that looked like someone took Woodstock, added wheels, and swapped the acid for accessibility. At Camp Janine, she found her people. They laughed, debated, played sports, and yes, totally crushed on each other. Teen drama, messy romances, deep talks under the stars. It was like every coming of age movie, just with more ramps. Judy said Camp Janine was the place where she realized she wasn't broken, the system was. That her disability wasn't a personal tragedy, it was a political identity. She described it like this. It was as if we'd all been it was as if we'd all been drowning and someone finally taught us how to swim and then told us we were actually mermaids. Mermaids with wheelchairs and strong opinions. And possibly a camp counselor named Bob who owned a tambourine and too much tie-dye. This wasn't just camp. It was a think tank, a protest training ground, and a comedy club all rolled into one. Camp Janine lit the fire, and Judy carried it into every room she entered for the rest of her life. After graduating from Long Island University, Judy applied to become a teacher. She aced the exams, had the credentials, and was ready to inspire young minds. Cue the school board, stage, well, it was technically stage left, you know, um, clutching their pearls. They claimed her wheelchair meant she couldn't safely evacuate in case of fire. Because obviously, kids can't learn from someone unless she's sprinting to the exit in a drill. So Judy sued, and she won. In Being Human, she wrote, "You don't get ahead by politely waiting your turn. You get ahead by pushing through the crowd with your wheelchair and saying, 'Excuse me, I have a lesson plan and I'm not afraid to use it.'" Mic drop. This wasn't just about Judy getting a job. It was about dismantling an entire narrative that said disabled people were liabilities instead of assets. Judy didn't just crack the door open, she barreled through it and left it wide open for others to follow. And if the fire marshal had a problem with that, well, he was about to get schooled. Fast forward to 1977, Judy, now an activist, helped lead the historic 504 sit-in in San Francisco. Section 504 was supposed to protect disabled people from discrimination in federally funded programs. But imagine this, for 4 years, it had been sitting in bureaucratic limbo. So Judy and the others said, if the regs won't move, we will into your building. They occupied the place for 26 days. No elevators, no heat, lots of determination, and probably a healthy dose of body odor. Still, they had food from the Black Panthers, allies from labor unions, and nerves of steel. This wasn't some quick protest with a catchy chant. This was strategic, gritty, relentless organizing. Activists communicated with sign language interpreters, passed information using courier networks, and held press conferences from inside the building. At one point, Judy phoned into a national news program from a janitor's closet, because when you're leading a revolution, you take the call whenever you can. Judy later said, "It was exhausting, smelly, revolutionary, and one of the proudest moments of my life. Honestly, sounds like my last group project in college, except with an actual national legislation on the line." This sit-in wasn't just the longest occupation of a federal building. It was a turning point. It forced the government to implement the first federal civil rights protections for disabled Americans. And it told the world the disability rights movement had arrived and it wasn't going anywhere. Judy wasn't done. Far from it. After bulldozing barriers on the local level, she took her advocacy to the highest halls of power. And no, I don't mean God. And not just once, but again and again. From 1993 to 2001, Judy served as Assistant Secretary of the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services under President Bill Clinton. That's a long title that basically means she was in charge of making sure people with disabilities got the services and support they deserve. And yes, she was the first wheelchair user to hold that post, because of course she was. Then came a stint at the World Bank where she served as first advisor on disability and development. Imagine rolling into an international finance meeting and reminding everyone that economic development means nothing if a third of the population can't access it. Judy didn't flinch. She brought her Brooklyn fire to the boardrooms in Geneva, Nairobi, and beyond. In 2010, she was tapped again, this time by President Obama, to serve as the first special advisor for international disability rights at the U.S. Department of State. She traveled the globe, pushing countries to adopt policies that actually worked for disabled people. Judy's passport probably had more stamps than a vintage post office. And through it all, she kept her humor. In being human, she joked about international diplomacy. Sometimes being the only wheelchair user in the room means you either get treated like royalty or security thinks you're lost. Either way, she made sure people listened. Because you can have all the laws in the world, but if no one understands the human side of disability, we're all stuck. In 2020, she released her memoir, Being Human, co-written with Kristen Joyner. It's raw, powerful, often hilarious, and always honest. Like, tells you the bathroom wasn't accessible and names names honest. If civil rights memoirs were rated by SAS, this one would break the scale. The young adult adaptation, Rolling Warrior, brought her message to a new generation, because the revolution needs teens too. And Judy knew how to speak their language. Short chapters, lots of feelings, zero nonsense. She also launched The Human Perspective, her own podcast, where she chatted with artists, activists, and thinkers across the disability community. And it wasn't just advocacy. It was a living, breathing archive of brilliance. And somehow, she made even complex policy chats sound like a coffee with her coolest aunt. One of her favorite lines, "I never wanted pity. I wanted ramps, buses I could ride, and a job where no one called me inspirational for showing up." Judy didn't want your awe, she wanted your action. Judith Heumann passed away in March 2023, but her legacy, unstoppable. She helped write the Americans with Disabilities Act. She influenced IDEA, Section 504, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, you name it. She mentored thousands and moved millions. She didn't just change laws, she changed lives. And she did it all while being witty, warm, and wonderfully blunt. Her unofficial motto might as well have been, I came, I saw, I made the building accessible. Her actual motto, nothing about us without us. That's not just a slogan, it's a battle cry. So what can we learn from Judy Heumann? That advocacy takes courage, that systems change when we demand it, and that you can be serious about justice and still have a laugh about it on your podcast. She didn't just demand a seat at the table. No, she built the table, installed a ramp, and invited everybody in. Thanks for listening to Self-Advocacy Matters. And hey, if someone ever calls you inspirational just for living your life, channel your inner Judy and say, inspiration is nice, equality is better. I'm Scott Volker. Until next time, stay loud, stay proud, and stay just. And remember, if you ever think advocacy is all serious business, just imagine Judy rolling into a room full of politicians and saying, excuse me, I'm here to change the world. And maybe take a bathroom break first. Because, hey, even superheroes need a pit stop.